saw my last video with an introduction to my assemblage art pieces and how I do assemblage art, or at least what I look for when I do it. In this video, I'm going to show you how I take an iPad box, which is one of my favorite boxes to work in, and create a piece of assemblage art. So in this video, I will be preparing the iPad box. You can use any kind of box. You can use an old drawer, an empty box, a cutout book, a picture frame, whatever you have. You probably have things laying around the house or in your studio or in your workshop that would be perfect for building a piece of assemblage art. So don't overlook anything. Kind of investigate and see what you can come up with. If you have any tips or any suggestions, I love to read them. Put them in the comments so we can all see what you might want to add to it. And anything I forget to tell you, I'll put in the description below. But for now, let's get started and let me show you how I do my iPad boxes in preparation for assemblage art. Okay, so here we are on the table, and I showed you the boxes that I was working on that I haven't quite finished yet. And they, as I pointed out, they were, kind of going into a nature series. And as I take a little bit closer look, I'm liking these. If you can see the photos here, there's a crab, there's a beaver, there's a coyote. I've also got turtles in here and a butterfly wing. Now what I'm thinking of doing, since this piece of paper has turtles, I may take these little guys. Oh, this will just pop right out. I'm going to take this and add it into here. This would go this way. This is going to be my turtle box. This one is going to be more butterflies because I have a few butterfly elements which could be kind of fun in this one. Which leaves me with this one, which, let's see, what other thing do I have? It could will end up being, I'm not really sure yet. I don't have to make that decision quite yet, but I do want to, okay, so I have lots of bird material here, and this is going to be my inspiration piece. Not sure if it'll be this color, if I can change it up a little bit. But I save all kinds of cutouts and have a little file, a bird file in this case. Really like this guy. Love these little guys, but I don't think they're gonna work. And I do have quite a few of these. So I might be using those. And my little hummingbird. We're gonna see. But first of all, I think what I'm gonna do on this box is I think I'm gonna line it with this color to set it off a little bit from the other two. So let's make this easy. This is, I believe this is paper, it is. It was palette paper that I used for a painting, and I never throw anything away. So I've got that palette paper saved in colors that I would like to use for this piece. And I'm just doing a rough outline around the edge. And let's see if I can, I prefer to tear my papers rather than cut them because I like the more organic feel of the torn edges. Let's see. Oops. That doesn't matter. That's not going to make a big difference. And I just want this to roughly fit on the inside of my box. Not using scissors being said, I do want to trim these off a little bit because I don't want all those ragged edges from where I'm going to be putting this on the edge of our box. Let me get those out of the way. And this is going to go inside. And once I get it glued down, I can go make my cut marks. Let's see. That'll be easier to do. So I'm using my polyurethane water-based clear coat as my glue. And oh, I just noticed that cool little circle right there, so I'm gonna wanna cut that out. And I'm just adding my glue to the outside edge of this, not down inside quite yet. Just wanna get a nice coat all around. And each time I do one of these boxes, I do it a different way every time. So however works for you the best. Let me get this little, I don't need that excess paper. It looks like this was 2 pieces that I added together. So I'm gonna line that up. Smooth my paper out. Might be a little tricky with this paper. And to be honest, I don't care if there's a little bit of a wrinkle in this paper. I think that texture will add to it. Typically, I do like to smooth out all my papers so that they don't ripple and buckle, but I kind of like it on this. As long as I can get the papers to lay down, I don't care if they're wrinkly. I just want to make sure they're making contact with the surface. Just putting in an extra coat just to make sure it's gonna stick nice and in all the spots that I want it to and not come loose once I get it all put together. And get my edges in there. My corners nice and tight. I kind of like this. It's going to give a little feeling of maybe a sky. Now, I want to really hit the edges of the inside outline so that I can then take one of my knives, one of my X-Acto knives, and very carefully follow that outline. Take your time. There we go. Now I think I might also See if I can cut off that edge a little bit. Get rid of all that surplus. I want to get rid of this. Anything that's not really sticking down. And I don't mind putting another coat over top of this. That's coming up a little bit. Check to make sure you've got everything down and it's not loosening up. I do like kind of being messy with my medium to make sure everything's down nice and tight. Okay. I get most of this excess off. When this dries, I can go back with my X-Acto knife and cut those edges off a little bit cleaner. So I do fuss around with this a little bit. You only get one chance to get everything to lay down nicely. So I take advantage of taking my time and getting everything done just so I don't have to go back and do it again. Now, what do I want to do in here? Do I want to take this down? I think I probably do. Do I want that? I'm thinking about it. Or do I want to add this paper in to tie in with the others? I think I want to do that. Now this one I am going to cut because I don't want a ragged edge in the corner. I want it nice and clean. And I think I want that little bird right there. Thinking about this for a minute. Do I want to do a ripped edge and have it come up and over? I kind of like that. Thinking, a lot of thinking in this process. That's what makes it fun. Hopefully I cut that the right size. I think I like that, just like that. Okay. Same thing. I'm gonna, since I've got that done, I'm gonna let that sit and dry up while I work on the back side. What am I doing on the back side? Good question. Let's see. I have some kind of cool papers that are a little different than what I have on the other boxes. Kind of like that, because it's going to tie in that color. Gives the feeling of branches. I also have a whole collection, you know, a little box of some handmade papers that I've done. Some papers that I've painted. I kind of like this because it goes with that coloration, and it will go with this coloration when I get done. You always got to keep your eye open for bubbles showing up. There's a couple right there. Let me see if I can catch those. Slice my paper up, add some more underneath. And that should do the trick. Okay, back to the flip side. Let's see, what do I have? I want to make sure I have enough to wrap around. I'm not going to have enough if I go all the way up, but I can, if I go this way, and then I could wrap this into the box, which might be very nice. So what I am going to want to do is make sure I have my measurements correct. Okay, I had to take a little engineering time out and figure out what I was doing with the back of this paper, of this box with the papers that I had. So a lot of what assemblage is kind of engineering and figuring out how to cut things and where they're going and how they're fitting in. So I didn't want to bore you with that while I was figuring it out, but I'll show you what I did figure out. I like both of these papers on the back. One, I believe, is Tim Holtz paper. I love using this tissue paper. Oh, looks like I'm at the end of the tube, the roll. I love it because I like having text and numbers in my work a lot. So now I'm going to add this piece to the bottom. I've already kind of measured it out. And what I like to do is take a ruler for my corners to make it simple. I take a ruler, and hopefully you can see that. And I just cut a line here and cut a line here. So now I've created my sides and I've created my top, and what I'm going to do is, let's do the top first. I'm going to put my medium on the top, and I'm going to put my medium on the sides. On the inside edge. And then what I can do is I can take my top, wrap that around. Now this paper is a little heavier, so it might fight me a little bit. And then I can just wrap that piece of paper on the sides. The little wings that I cut are perfect for putting right there on the side. And then I can go back and smooth that out with my medium. And then I'm going to flip it over and put my medium on the whole back. Come on, get down. Make sure I got a good coverage. And then just lay that over. This is a nice sturdy handmade paper. And I like that this text is talking to the text on the other two pieces that will be part of this series. Then once again, let me get this laying down again. And you can see it makes a nice clean corner. I love that. There's no folds, nothing, no telltale signs of a corner. It's just a nice clean seam. Get that to lay down. Okay. Make sure I've got, maybe wet this paper a little bit because this handmade paper works best when it's a little damp. It makes it a little bit more pliable. There we go. Now at this point, I also took some of the Tim Holtz paper and laid it over the pieces that I had, the pieces of dictionary pages I had in there. Not sure what I'm going to do with this little guy yet. I'm waiting on that, but now I've got a nice coverage on the box. So that's the first thing I do. Now I'm gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes, half hour, and let it dry, and I'll show you what I do next. But I'm pretty happy with how this box is looking. And I do like to, when I'm done, go over with a clear coat, but I may be doing my clear coat in with a color to wash over the whole thing. So I'll be back shortly with that. Okay, now I'm going to show you the next step, the final step I do in preparation. I've got all my papers on. I added this little bird in the back. You saw me add the papers. I added a little strip of the paper that I used in the front, the painted palette that I used in the front just to tie it all in. And now I'm gonna kind of pull it together because I like the aged look that I get when I do one final coat that kind of unifies the whole thing. So I'm taking a metallic black, and then I have, let's see, what is this? This is a burnt umber, and I want it a little bit more dulled down, so I'm going to mix those two together and get more of a raw umber. And then I'm going to take it and mix it with some of my polyurethane, actually a lot of polyurethane, because I don't really want it to be quite that dark. So as I go, I'm going to grab a little bit more of the brown to brown it up. And it just kind of fills in all the blank spots and adds a nice little aging to it. Kind of caught in the nooks and crannies of that the palette paper because it has some texture to it. So let me get the outside done. I'm going to do the inside as well. It's a little bit of a rubbed finish. You can really tell the difference when you get up. Let me see, find something to hold on to. When you cover the white paper, I definitely don't want it quite that white. And using the polyurethane as I go adds a nice finish coat to the papers. And I want to use a lot of finish coat down here. This paper is more porous, the handmade paper. Okay, get that all wiped off, and it's really created a nice finish on this piece. Let me hold it that way. Okay, so now the inside. inside the same thing. I might want a little less color on the inside. Let's test it here. And it will also fill in the areas of white that are the box that I didn't cover with paper. So I'm going to make sure I get a good coverage on all of that. And then I'm going to work it up in here. Don't want to lose all of that blue, but I want to age it a little bit. I don't want it to look so fresh. Definitely want to age that little bit of red I've got going on there because I'm not really sure. Well, I am kind of sure about one thing. I'm adding an element in that has that red in it, so I wanted to repeat that color, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I get to the next video where I'm actually adding in the pieces of the assemblage art, of the assemblage pieces. Now I just want to go and blot that. Clean it up a little bit. Let me get some of that red coming back. And I like it to stay dark in the edges in these areas because it just adds a nice patina to it. Nice naturally old flavor, if that's what you're looking for. You can go back in and dab on the white. I'm not too picky about it because I don't want it to look perfect. This is where my experience as my long career as a faux artist comes in handy. There, I'm really liking that. Get a little bit more in the corners. So there you go. That is our last step in getting prepared for our piece to go to the next step in the next video, and that is adding in our pieces of assemblage. So, really like this. Okay, now that you know how I get my box ready to assemble a piece of assemblage art, head over to the next video and I'll show you kind of my thought waves on how I pull things together, how I tell a story, how I plan it. And I may even have time to show you how I cut the glass to go on top, which is always the scary thing for most people. I know it was for me, but once you do it, it's one of the easiest things to do. So I hope you'll pop over to the next video and see how I make this piece of assemblage art happen.